the lack of human contact and like connection, and you know, that stuff weighs heavily on people. But then it also can make people seek really unhealthy outlets. And I feel like Twitter has been insane. And also cancel culture has sort of it's ramped up. Cancel culture has ramped the fuck up since quarantine was announced. Like Jenna Marbles is making tearful apologies about videos from 2010, and now she's quit YouTube. She's not doing it anymore. She's like taken a quote unquote hiatus. Everyone's sort of digging up old tea on everyone, canceling everyone. Heads are rolling like left and right. And I feel like quarantine has definitely contributed, because number one, it gives people a sense of agency, like they're doing something moral or they're doing something to facilitate justice without having to actually do anything tangible in the real world. And also it acts as entertainment and spectacle to watch, you know, the mighty fall, or to tune in and like watch, you know, YouTubers crying about, you know, the blackface that they did in 2010. And I'm so glad that I didn't have YouTube in 2010, because you'd be able to find, I had dirty gutter. I was like a fan of Family Guy and South Park back in 2010. I used to make jokes that were about every community. I used to make jokes about I used to think that shit was hilarious, like especially racial humor. I used to think that shit was funny, and I used to like, and if I had YouTube during that time when I was like 13, 14 years old, I'm sure people would
have a treasure trove of cancelable material.
Yeah, just cancelable material.
I was a channer, so like my beliefs were absolutely horrid. If I was online in my teens, like my early teens, it would have been a fucking disaster. And there are kids that are literally like, they like, people find their Twitter accounts, realize they're a 14-year-old, and then like dox them and call their school to tell them that they're racist, to tell the school that there's one of their students is racist. And it's like, holy shit, like I can't imagine like
stalking a kid to do something like that.
Stalking a kid like that. It's unreal to me. And it absolutely would have happened to me if I were online during that period of my life, because like teenagers are so like obviously hormonal, volatile, like, and still haven't developed,
don't have a full world.
Yeah, they haven't developed their brain enough to actually really have full opinions. It's just
Well, there's that Soph kid.
Yeah.
This is why I defended that kid so much, and people really fucking hated that I did. But she was I assume that she's a year older now, but I think she's 14 at the time. And she was making those alt-right videos or whatever the fuck she was doing. And these people were coming at her like she was like a 40-year-old man. They were stalking her in the same way you see them do that shit. And I'm not saying that it's right to even necessarily do it to a 40-year-old man, but like it's fucked up to attack and label and brand these kids. And you know what's fucking insane? That kid is now on that censored TV platform that is platforming Milo Yiannopoulos. That 14-year-old kid is on censored.tv.
No surprise.
And it's like, well, what did you fucking expect? You literally pushed this person into this paradigm.
That's the thing, though. The liberal consensus is like inherently hypocritical, because it's like a pendulum that swings between hyper politically correct and not politically correct, hyper politically incorrect and not politically correct, depending on what suits it. So liberals in the early 2010s were irreverent and edgy, and it was okay to make the odd Jew joke. And it was like someone like Seth MacFarlane was considered a liberal in 2010, you know?
Yeah.
These are the same people that would make black jokes and things like that. And they were considered socially progressive, but they had like a cheeky sense of humor or whatever. So now the pendulum of liberalism is swinging more towards political correctness, and they are enforcing that as like the order of things. And it makes no sense for them to enforce that as the order of things on people's past mistakes, because the pendulum was in a different direction in those days. When Jenna Marbles and all of these other people were doing blackface and all of this stuff, the cultural conversations around things like race and gender politics weren't mainstream. These were things that were still sort of in the halls of academia that normal people didn't really have access to. You know,
still really don't.
Yeah, still, yeah, in a lot of respects. And for people to sort of judge them based on that. And I mean, Jenna specifically kind of cancelled herself before she could be cancelled. But the reason she cancelled herself before she could be cancelled is because if she didn't, then they would have fucking come for her, and she didn't want to deal with the ramifications of that kind of thing happening. And in my opinion, this doesn't reflect the Black community's choices. From what I've seen on Twitter and in other social media places, the Black community is incredibly supportive of Jenna Marbles and has been for quite a while. Like the Black YouTube community and stuff don't necessarily think she should be deplatformed or go on some sort of punitive hiatus. I personally don't. I'm like, more power to you. Keep making your videos. And am I mad about her putting on a Nicki Minaj wig in 2010 and doing a rap? No, I'm not really that angry about it. And I don't think
especially since she's like, this isn't what I would do now. Yeah, like if the basis of the judgment is you did this, then the question is, would you still do it? And if the answer is no, then you should fucking let go of it. And a lot of the time, that's not what happens.
It is the need that all of these, I mean, not all of these, but just like particular people of like whatever kind of standing in the public sphere feel the need to self-police themselves before people are going to come and call their manager, essentially. And that's why you've got people like Jenny Slate and the guy that voices Cleveland Brown have both like stepped down from voicing their characters on various shows because they're Black characters and stuff.
You know what it is? It's blackmail. It's the same thing that people do when they're being blackmailed. They just come out and put the information out there first to show that they are not going to basically give into it. But it's like this, rather than actually them being directly blackmailed, it's like an implicit thing. Like
cultural blackmail.
Kind of like they knew it was coming.
It's a culture of like coercion in that regard. And there's going to be a massive pushback to this coercive.
Yeah, the reaction's gonna fuck.
Yeah, the reaction's gonna be, and the thing is, the people who are gonna suffer the most in that reaction are like actual marginalized people, not these liberal PMCs in their like sort of shrouded cultural bubbles. There's gonna be a huge reaction to this shit. This sort of obsession with moral purity and moral purging is gonna really do a lot of damage in terms of the image of the left and the sort of image of the politics that the left are propagating. But not just that, the whole call the manager thing, this is a larger culture of Karenhood,